going overseas. We're talking about the ECB's latest iteration of its loan program with Simon Nixon. Simon, how are you? Good afternoon to you, I suppose it is over there by now, right?
Hi, morning.
So let's talk. I mean, to me, this ECB program is really just buying time. But $1 trillion buys a lot of time, doesn't it? Or €1 trillion, I should say.
So I'm not really hearing you very well. It buys time, you say?
Yes. Take it from there.
Yes, that's exactly what it does. It's the amount of money that's been taken up is probably roughly what's expected, and it's enough to underwrite the funding requirements for the banks for the rest of this year, which takes a lot of the risk off the table in terms of a systemic crisis. There's almost certainly a lot of money has been taken by Italian and Spanish banks, which they'll plow back into buying government bonds. So in that sense, it's a sort of covert QE. So what it does is it just buys time for the system, and then the question is, how's that time going to be used?
Simon, I've read some analysis that indicated, some analysts saying that this would be the last time, or at least the last time for now, that the ECB would have one of these LTRO rounds. With 800 banks stepping up for money this time, does that suggest stronger demand and perhaps more LTROs?
Well, I think that what this shows is that certainly there's no stigma attached to these facilities, which some people had been worried about, and I think that a lot of there's no doubt there's a lot of small banks around Europe that are shut out of funding markets, and that's likely to remain the case. The ECB is not saying this is the last one, but I personally don't think it'll be the last one. I don't think many people really think it'll be the last one. If the banks in a year's time have still got funding issues, then there could be others. Some people are talking about even 5-year LTROs before this crisis is over. So everything really depends upon what happens in the economy in Europe towards in the second half of this year. A lot depends upon what governments and banks do to repair their balance sheets and to implement structural reforms in countries. But so that will be. Sorry.
No, I mean, that's my question, Simon. Exactly. All right, so great. The banks have bought themselves some time. What exactly do we need to see from the banks over the next year, 2 years, 3 years? What should we be looking? What kind of markers should we be looking for as a sign that they've actually gotten a clue and they're doing better?
Yeah. Well, in terms of the banking sector, the key markets, Italy and Spain in particular, earlier this year announced a banking reform that didn't really go anywhere near far enough to persuade anybody that the government there had really got to grips with the scale of the crisis. I think in Italy too, that people will be looking to see deleveraging of the banking system, more cost cutting, more restructuring, more mergers. And then at the government level, which is probably even more important again in both those countries, to what extent they push ahead with their fiscal programs and their structural reforms to make their economies more competitive. And the worrying thing is that what we've seen throughout this crisis, and we've seen it even since December with the first LTRO, is that whenever the central bank steps up and provides some kind of liquidity support, you see the pressure coming off the banks, the pressure coming off the governments. We've seen that again already this year. So the issue for the ECB is how do you drive for these banks and governments forward with their reform programs before this time that runs out.